Hi sweet beans, my name is Soleil and welcome to the Little Reader's Corner. Today I am talking about how I take my digital notes. So I have been taking digital notes since 2018. I started off with I think 2018 iPad Pro, and I just upgraded to the 2020 regular standard iPad, and it's been a good time. So basically I use my iPad for everything concerning school. I take my notes on there, I annotate my readings. I also primarily get all of my textbooks digitally. This is just the style that works for me. I have had a lot of back problems, especially when I started getting into college and had to lug all of these giant textbooks around. And at some point I realized that I could put all of the same materials into just this one little device and then have everything with me at all times. Like right now, while I'm taking my Survey of International Economics course, I can look back on my two notebooks from macroeconomics and microeconomics from previous years, and then I can just get a quick refresh from my own notes. I've also found it really helpful to have notes that I can edit and change and revise very quickly, because when I'm taking physical notes, I'm not very organized. The professors aren't very organized. They'll be talking about international trade, and then they'll go on to the formation of the WTO, which is great, but then they'll go back to some trade law from the 1930s, and they'll go back to the WTO, and they're just all over the place, which is fine. They're just doing their thing. But that doesn't work for my notes, because then if I look back on my notes, then I have information from all different sections all over the place, and I have no idea where to go. With using digital notes, I'm able to go back, bring things over, just lasso tool that information and bring it back up. I can copy and paste things, and it just makes everything so much simpler, especially now that I have a full-time job and I'm doing full-time graduate school. It's a bit much. So this way I have all of my information, all of my tools, all of my notebooks, all of my readings, all in one place. I also use my tablet for making thumbnails for YouTube, which I'll show a little bit of in the end. And I also use it for my language study. So I'll show a little bit of how I take notes for Russian. I have kind of a similar ongoing system for any semester that I'm studying Russian. I will copy and paste some of the basic information, verb endings, and all of that into my new Russian study book, and I'll keep copying and pasting that into new notebooks so that I have a base to go off of. So let's get into some of these notes. All right, so this is the home screen of my tablet. I have all of my fun apps and then all of my study apps. I use GoodNotes to take all of my notes. Also, you can see my face in this, which is really fun. But let's set up some notebooks for this semester. I am very organized with my folders. I have specifically now set up a bachelor's degree folder that has all of my coursework from my bachelor's degree, and now I have my notebooks for my master's degree. So for each semester, I create a folder for that semester. Within that folder, I have the notebooks for each course, and then I also have a folder with all of my documents. So each course will have a lot of different readings. So within my documents folder, I'll have folders for each course, and within that, I'll have it by week. Also, I wanted to quickly show where I get my notebook covers. So GoodNotes comes with quite an assortment of notebook covers, but at this point, I've been using this bad boy for about 3 years. I don't even know how many classes I have used it for now, but I have gone through all of the notebook covers that I personally like on there. And I need to have separate notebook covers for each course so I can remember what course they are. I have gotten all of my notebook covers from Etsy in the past. They're usually very cheap. They're about $5 or less, which, yes, it's a digital item that just looks pretty, but it's entirely up to you if that's something you would like to spend money on. I really enjoy it. It really helps me focus and concentrate. So basically, I just download the files, save it as an image, or save it to my files folder, and then I just paste it right in there and put it on top of the notebook cover. There are other ways to do this as well. You can import it as a cover image, but the only thing is it'll be really dependent if it is the exact same size as your notebook. Pro tip, it's just a lot less pain to download it as a photo. I also make my own notebook titles, which you can see here. I use an app called Cover, I think, but they recently rebranded under GoDaddy, I think, the website company. So now the app is just called Studio. I use it for making all of my titles. They have a lot of different free fonts. I like using the same font for the full semester, but sometimes I change up what font that will be. And here you can also see me downloading and using these little notebook assets. So these are little washi tapes or banners or little notebook covers. They also have cute little markers for days of the week or specifically for different to-do lists. I like using themed ones for each notebook. Sometimes I don't end up using them for the semester, but I usually think it's really nice to have at the beginning of my notebook so that I can just copy and paste them later on and utilize them for the beginning of each new week. Now let's talk a little bit specifically about how I physically take my actual notes. So I've been using this same style for the past few years. It took a little bit for me to figure out what I really wanted to do with my notes because I've never really felt like I'm a very neat or artistic person when it comes to notes. I know there are some people that are connoisseurs of the art of note-taking and it is mind-boggling, but I'm not really that kind of person. I need it to be organized and aesthetically pleasing to my eye, and it needs to make sense, but I also need it to be practical. It can't take too long and it needs to make sense in my eyes. So this is the title format that I use. It looks really nice, but it's actually very easy to do. And no matter what, it usually looks good. Like, I don't think I have the best handwriting, but if I just do any kind of messy cursive on top of these tall block capital letters, it looks pretty good. So I really enjoy doing that. I also really like using my tablet because I can just screenshot any image, graph, or anything from my textbook or from a PowerPoint slide or from a reading or an article, and I can just paste it in very quickly. Sometimes I take my notes using a split screen, which I use right here. So I basically have my reading on the left side. I usually will highlight and read through the reading first and then take some notes on it because that is the best way for me to actually retain information. First, kind of find out where the information is, highlight it with specific different colors of highlighters depending on what it is, and then I'll take notes on it, and then that will cement the information in my brain. Otherwise, I'll have the reading pulled up on my computer, which I use VitalSource to get all of my textbooks. It has almost always the textbooks that I need or I'm looking for. Otherwise, I'll have to use a different e-reader app like Nook or Amazon Kindle. But this way, I can pull up my readings on my computer or on my tablet anywhere on the go. Also on my phone. It's great. I love it. And I take my notes using headers with information underneath. There are different kinds of headers that I use depending on the scope of the information. So first I'll use a very thick highlighter for the broadest category. Then underneath I will use a thinner highlighter line for sub-information and subcategories. Then I'll just accent things with the same color as the highlighter I'm using for text information. Sometimes I'll outline the graph that I'm looking at, and I'll just make it look a little neater, a little more organized later on. Now, last of all, I wanted to talk about how I use Procreate to make my thumbnails. I'm just gonna give a brief little talk about it. I'm not gonna go into depth, but basically I place my thumbnail in if it's the image that I took. If it's a vlog, I'll have multiple images. I have multiple layers with the title on it. I use the same app that I create my titles for my notebooks to create the titles for my thumbnails. I'll add embellishments. I've also been adding a outside border, and that will basically be it. So that is it for how I use my tablet to take notes, annotate readings, and also create thumbnails for YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!